At the top of the show, we spelled out the latest developments in the impeachment inquiry and the details of the House vote this morning. Now, in this segment, you got some expert legal analysis for you. And for that, we turn to former federal prosecutor Roland Riopelle. And Roland, I thought Andrew did a good job of laying out how the process will work. Make this consumable for the folks at home. At the end of this, do they think that they're going to get a full picture? I know that we're not going to have the typical silliness where 5 minutes for every single lawmaker to pontificate. You're going to have professionals. They're going to have longer blocks of time to be doing the examination and cross-examination. Will we get a good idea from both the witnesses and the inquiry who did what and when?
Yeah, I think, Richard, by the end of this process, we're going to know an awful lot of the details around that July 25th call and the reactions of many of the people in that room to it. There appear to be only a few witnesses who are digging their heels in and refusing to testify. So we're going to hear about that call and its repercussions from almost everyone involved, and I think we're going to have a very good sense of where we are by the end of the hearings.
It's interesting, and I saw the dueling press conferences from lawmakers on the Hill. I've heard many condemnations on the way the process is evolving, a lot of interesting comparisons to Soviet Russia. That said, I didn't hear any Republicans defend the actions of the president yet. At the end of the day, is the primary defense going to be, hey, it was just a phone call. Maybe the content wasn't ideal, but at the end of the day, they still got the money, no harm, no foul?
I think, Richard, you're right. At the end of the day, the president's behavior here is really not very defensible, and it's going to be clear what happened. And I think at the end of the day, the defense to his removal from office is going to be, okay, he screwed up, but we're not taking him out for that. And the voters will have to decide whether his behavior was so awful that he ought to be taken out. And they will next November. You know,
there's two folks that the Democrats want to have testify, and they're the White House attorneys here, Mike Ellis and John Eisenberg. I'd love to hear from these guys because they were part of the decision, apparently, to take the transcript off the general server and move it to that secret server, put the ellipses in where apparently there was a lot more damning conversation, according to Ambassador Taylor and others on there, including Lieutenant Colonel Vinograd, all saying, there's more to it than what you guys are looking at. Can they compel them to testify? And more importantly, will we ever find out what's on that other server? Again, Roland, apparently there's conversations with the Russians on there. There's also conversations with the Saudi royal family on there, directly with the president. All these conversations reportedly concerning enough to those in the inner circle of the president, they didn't want them to be for public consumption.
Well, again, the Intelligence Committee can certainly subpoena those conversations. And if the White House resists that subpoena at this point in time, they can go to court and probably enforce it and force the production of those conversations. Now that the impeachment process is in the open, fully authorized by Congress, I think that it's going to be a very difficult thing for the White House to resist production of material that has been subpoenaed unless there is some genuine privilege that applies. And I don't think there will be one in this case.
Process questions. The constant refrain we heard from members of the GOP today was, hey, this is, there's no due process here. This is, a kangaroo court, Speak to that, because I've had former Watergate prosecutors on here, yourself and 1,000 other former federal prosecutors have all said, A, the process is fair, and this is how it's designed. This is how it's laid out and how it's supposed to work. House, and then eventually, if they then move full ahead, then the Senate, and obviously the 2/3 required there. for those who claim that this is being done in the shadows and the game is rigged. Is that a fair criticism or not?
No, that's utter nonsense. It's smoke and mirrors designed to try to distract the public. Look, the Intelligence Committee, which has been holding these hearings, is approximately half Democrats, half Republicans. Every member of that committee is given an opportunity to question any witness who appears before the committee. It is true that much of the testimony so far has been taken in closed sessions, not open to the public. The reason for that is simple. It's a better way to find facts. If you open it to the public, everybody starts to grandstand, the witnesses and the Congress people, and it turns into a bit of a circus. We've seen the public testimony of Robert Mueller and Jim Comey, and those turned into public circus type proceedings. Here, behind closed doors, there's a lot less posturing. You're getting to the facts. The Republicans have every right to ask questions if they want to. This is not the Star Chamber. They are represented in there by their membership. They can ask any questions they want to ask. To suggest that this hearing, these hearings, which have been held as the Watergate hearings were held, as the Clinton hearings were held, to suggest that this is somehow unfair and that the president is not getting the process that he is due is utterly false and misleading.
How would you handle John Bolton in that he's the biggest wild card here? Clearly, he made it very widely known his displeasure with the president's foreign policy moves, and now he's, as they say, an untethered free agent. That said, you know, he's clearly not a friend to the Democrats historically. Is this going to be a situation where he gets up there and after he, finishes taking the oath, it's anybody's guess what he'll say, or will there be enough of a pre-interview, you know what you're going to get on the stand?
Well, we have heard from a number of witnesses who have had conversations with Mr. Bolton and have reported those to the committee already. So, unlike Ambassador Sondland, who just went in there and made it up, I think Ambassador or Mr. Bolton knows what some of the testimony has been about the conversations he had with people, that Rudy Giuliani was a hand grenade, that you could use that conversation to get Mr. Bolton to admit, if he's reluctant to do so, that he saw the use of Rudy Giuliani as a sort of shadow diplomat as a dangerous and improper thing. We can use the conversation that Mr. Bolton apparently had, in which he described a conversation about what was it, that Rudy Giuliani was involved in a drug deal.
Right.
He's going to be hard pressed to say that he approved of this, right? So I think Mr. Bolton is now in a box where if he testifies, he's not going to be able to say that everything was peachy keen and the president's behavior was perfect. And I think he's probably not inclined to take that position either, given the way that he was shown the door.
Roland, I want to ask you real quickly the question I'm going to ask our audience in a moment and get their reaction on the phone lines. If you were a member of Congress today, and I think I know where you're going to go, would you have voted yes to move ahead with the impeachment proceedings?
Well, Richard, I am a liberal Democrat, so the answer to that is certainly yes. I think any principled vote would be yes. We have a situation before us in which the president appears to have committed a number of crimes, including violations of the campaign finance law, extortion, potentially bribery, in going around the back of Congress and attempting to withhold funding from an ally under threat from an enemy. That's awfully serious conduct. It warrants a full analysis and investigation by Congress, and possibly impeachment after all the facts are in. I don't see that a vote against engaging in this process makes any sense at all, given the facts we have before us.
I knew the answer was going to be yes, but I asked it anyway. Roland, as always,
Long-winded
great job.
yes.
Hey,
I'm sorry it was a.
No,
I'm
no.
sorry it was a long-winded yes, Richard.
If you
but
said
you
no,
gave me an
if you said
opening
no, I
there.
would have fallen over. But Roland, my friend, as always, thank you for a few. All right, you heard Roland's answers. When we come back, we want to hear yours. The phone lines are open now. The toll-free number on your screen. I'm putting you in the Capitol today, and Andrew and I are going to get your take. Would you have voted to support the impeachment inquiry? Your reaction straight ahead.